My name is Ashley Brown. My pronouns are she and hers, and I am a principal consultant at GH Smart. I have been a consultant in a few different places, but currently my focus is on leadership and executive, both evaluation, assessment for hiring purposes, as well as for coaching and development. And we work with Fortune 500 companies. We work with private equity investors and their boards as well. I love the people that I get to meet. I am really driven by problem solving around people. I'm really driven by really getting to know people underneath the surface level and thinking about who they are, what they bring to the table, and what helps them live their most fulfilled life. So being able to have very deep, vulnerable conversations with some of the most brilliant minds and biggest leaders in the world and helping them to think about what's next for them is extremely fulfilling. I came in after doing internships with the federal government. So unlike most people who come in thinking I'll be a professor, I came in a bit skeptical. So I was very vocal about, hey, I've been doing these internships. I'm working with this government organization. Maybe I'll go back there. Maybe I'll be a professor. Maybe I'll do something else. I don't really know. And then I decided to resign. The organization wanted me to come back to DC full time. I was doing a PhD on local politics in Michigan. So doing that while working 40 hours a week in DC just wasn't practical. So I resigned from my position in the government. And then I thought, what the heck do I do now? So I cast a very wide net. I looked at nonprofits. I looked at local politics. Big caveat there. By this point, I was married. So I wanted to stay physically in Michigan. I didn't want to be away from my husband. And then consulting came up. And I thought, well, what is this consulting thing? I originally left my PhD and went to work at McKinsey and Company. They have a Detroit-based office. And I did a few case studies with people from Ross, from the business school. And they kind of took pity on this poor PhD student who thought she wanted to be a consultant. And I did a few case studies with them and then really fell in love with it. And I applied for the summer internship program at McKinsey. And I got to the final rounds and I did not get the internship. And I was heartbroken. And at that point, when I thought of this huge wide net that I'd cast for postdocs, for nonprofits, for local government positions, even thinking about potentially going to the academic job market, I realized, no, I want to do consulting. I want to be at McKinsey. So I really doubled down on the studying and the case preparation. And then I applied again in the fall. And by the time I got home, it's a 45-minute drive. By the time I got home and back to Ann Arbor and had taken off my stuffy business clothes and put on sweatpants, they called me and they offered me the full-time job. So immediately after I finished my PhD, I joined McKinsey as a consultant there. So the first thing that I would say is that as students are really looking into human operations or even thinking about what they want to do, they should get a real handle on their transferable skills. I hadn't heard of that word before. I think I was maybe in my third or fourth year of my PhD. And when I started hearing about what transferable skills were, it just energized me and opened my eyes to all the different things that I could do. Because when you're thinking about what you do, you're like, oh, I'm a student, I'm doing all the things that all my peers are doing. But that's not how the rest of the world views you. You're writing, you're thinking critically, you're analyzing, you're innovating, you are collaborating with people about topics that don't have a right or wrong, black or white answer. And that type of skill set translates so neatly into what the world needs right now. A lot of people can do the technical things, right? But when you have someone who can step back and say, whoa, here's this big, broad elephant in the room that we're all walking around and we don't even realize it. I mean, that is so paramount to what pushes things forward. And for me, knowing what my transferable skills were and then putting them into a resume versus like a however many page CV, but like crystallizing it in a small resume really helps me think about, man, this is what I'm doing and this is how I'm doing it and this is marketable and people are excited about this. There are a number of ways that people could go when they think about what does it mean to move into the people space. So it could be in consulting. And I've mentioned a lot of the bigger consulting firms, so not just McKinsey, but also BCG or Bain or Accenture or Deloitte, they have programs that are geared toward people with advanced professional degrees. So whereas before, the gold standard was really an MBA, now there's real value for diversity of thought. So the PhD is applicable, and it's exciting for these companies to get that diversity of thought and training and experience in their doors. So a big consulting firm is one way to go. You could also look at more boutique consulting firms. So GH Smart is a much more boutique firm. Their focus is literally on leadership and executive consulting, maybe coming straight out of a PhD, unless you had work experience before. You might need like a little interim step, but a lot of boutique firms really specialize in, higher education, or they specialize in professional development, or they specialize in other areas that are extremely applicable to what people have been studying and learning. And they already bring not just their transferable skills, but also a level of credibility by having the PhD, by going through that process. For me, it was definitely, you talk about imposter syndrome a lot, but the PhD, having that degree really gave me a level of just, you belong here. Like, you have a seat at the table. And I realized I was in the mindset of a PhD student, even after I got my PhD, even after I had the degree, even after I started the job. And the outside world didn't view me that way. So I think part of it is shifting that lens earlier, and to say, when I finish, I will be looking for my career as someone who has a PhD, not as a PhD student who just wants or needs a job. And it can be very hard to disaggregate the two while you're going through the process, especially the dissertation process. But I wish, if I could look back, that I'd had that unlock sooner, how the world viewed me versus how I was viewing myself, because there was a pretty big difference.